Okay, so have you ever paused, maybe while you're cooking dinner,
Hmm.
and had this really weird thought? Like, is the stuff that insulates my house or stabilizes gunpowder or, I don't know, cleans out industrial pipes, does any of that somehow end up in the food I'm about to eat?
That's quite the list you've got there. Specific and, yeah, a little unsettling.
Well, it kind of sets the stage, right? Because today we're doing a deep dive into some, let's call them historical health lies.
Hmm.
Things that didn't just, stick around for a bit, but actually helped build the foundation for a lot of modern chronic diseases.
And the truly maddening part, like you hinted, is how long these ideas persisted. We're talking decades, sometimes even over 100 years, before they were questioned or corrected, if they were corrected.
Yeah, if at all. It feels like a mix of, I don't know, bad science and maybe industry just pushing things through.
It's definitely a complex picture. Regulatory failure, market forces, sometimes just sheer inertia. Things introduced way back, or early 1900s even, that we're still dealing with. The lag between science figuring out the harm and actual change happening is just staggering.
Okay, let's dig in. Maybe start with a classic example. The poster child for this kind of thing, Crisco.
Crisco, yes. Developed around 1911. It seemed like a kitchen revolution, right? This clean, modern alternative to animal fats like lard or butter.
Totally. My grandma probably used it. But where did it actually come from?
Well, the origin story is telling. Before it became Crisco, the base was cottonseed oil. And historically, cottonseed oil was used for things like candles, soap, even lanterns.
Wait, seriously? Lantern fuel?
Yep, it was kind of a waste product.
Yeah.
Then chemistry figured out how to solidify this liquid oil, and someone, somewhere, had the bright idea to say, hey, let's stop lighting rooms with this and start cooking with it.
Wow. Okay. And how did they make it solid? What was the magic trick?
Hydrogenation. That was the key. You take a cheap liquid oil, like cottonseed, bombard it with hydrogen atoms, and it becomes stable, solid at room temperature.
And that creates trans fats, right?
Exactly, trans fats, which from a manufacturing perspective were amazing. Long shelf life, cheap to produce, a total win for food companies.
But for people eating it, because everyone was told, ditch the butter, use this modern stuff.
Yeah. The consequence was damage right down to the cellular level. See, trans fats are rigid structurally. Your cell membranes need to be fluid, flexible. When trans fats get incorporated, they mess everything up. Cell communication, function.
And the heart. I always hear trans fats in heart disease.
Absolutely. They directly impair heart function. Big contributors to heart disease. But the timeline is the real kicker here. Introduced with zero safety studies. None.
Zero.
Zero. And then it took over 100 years of accumulating evidence and, frankly, public outrage before policies really started to limit them effectively.
100 years. To fix an error that started with lamp oil. That really sets a precedent, doesn't it? Shows how slow things move when industry finds something cheap.
It's a depressingly consistent pattern. Look at other things we just accepted for ages. Asbestos, great insulator, right? Used everywhere. Took 90 years to get that mostly off the market, despite knowing the dangers.
90 years, wow.
Or DDT, that toxic pesticide. 30 years. 30 years before it was finally pulled.
And it's not just stuff from the past, is it? What about things we use now?
Right. Think about glyphosate. Most people know it as Roundup. Its first gig wasn't farming.
No?
Nope, it was used in industry to clean mineral buildup, scale out of pipes. Then someone figured out it kills basically any plants it touches. So industrial pipe cleaner becomes best-selling weed killer. Same theme, industrial use first, consumer product later.
Okay, if the candle oil to cooking fat story was weird, this next bit, moving from like the chemical plant to the dinner plate,
Yeah.
that sounds even wilder. You mentioned explosives.
Ah, yes. This is where managing industrial byproducts gets really creative. Take fluoride, still added to water in many places, in toothpaste.
Supposedly for teeth, right. Prevent cavities.
That's the official line, pushed hard by the American Dental Association. But fluoride is primarily a byproduct of aluminum manufacturing. It's toxic waste, basically.
And there's pushback on the health claims, too, isn't there? I've heard things about IQ.
There's definitely research, often cited by critics of fluoridation, suggesting links between high exposure and cognitive issues, especially in kids. It's highly controversial, the claim it lowers IQ, but some states are finally starting to ban or limit adding it to water after decades of exposure for millions.
Decades. Okay, what about the explosives connection? You mentioned bacon.
Right. Sodium nitrate. If you eat cured meats, bacon, sausage, ham, deli meats, you're eating it. It's a preservative.
Okay, so far so normal.
But it's original industrial jobs, stabilizing gunpowder, protecting explosives from degrading.
Are you kidding? Gunpowder.
Not kidding. So, Yeah, next time you have bacon, just appreciate its explosive heritage. Makes breakfast more exciting.
Ah, or terrifying.
Oh.
Okay, what else has weird origins? Sweeteners.
Oh, yeah, saccharin, one of the oldest artificial sweeteners out there. It's not from a plant. It's made from petroleum derivatives.
Petroleum, like
It's
gasoline.
derived from the same crude oil, yeah. Synthesized in a lab.
Man. Okay, but you mentioned something even worse earlier, sewage. Please tell me sewage isn't ending up in food.
Well, indirectly, it's called biolids, and it's kind of the ultimate regulatory magic trick,
Biolids. Sounds vaguely healthy.
doesn't it? But it's essentially treated sewage sludge.
Fuck.
From municipal wastewater, industrial wastewater, all the stuff that goes down the drain.
And treatment removes the bad stuff.
It removes some things, like pathogens, but it concentrates other things. Heavy metals, residues from pharmaceuticals, industrial chemicals, those forever chemicals like PFAS. They don't just disappear, they get concentrated in the sludge.
Okay, so you have this concentrated toxic sludge. What do they do with it?
If they called it toxic sewage sludge, they'd have to pay a fortune for proper hazardous waste disposal. So
They rename it.
they rebrand it
Yeah.
as biolids, a beneficial soil amendment. This lets it bypass stricter environmental rules, and then they spread it on farmland as fertilizer.
You're telling me toxic sludge is used to grow vegetables.
That's the system. It's the cheapest way for municipalities and industries to get rid of this hazardous waste, straight onto the fields where our food grows. It's quite something.
That is deeply disturbing.
Oh.
Okay, moving from specific nasty ingredients to sort of the bulk of our diet. You mentioned corn earlier. How does that fit into this picture of industrial food?
Corn.
It's-
Specifically dent corn or field corn. This isn't sweet corn you eat off the cob. This is industrial corn. And it's everywhere.
Why? Is it just easy to grow?
It's easy to grow, yes, but the main reason is economics. It's overwhelmingly genetically modified, and crucially, it's heavily subsidized by the government. Tax dollars make it incredibly artificially cheap, like under $200 per metric ton cheap.
So because it's dirt cheap?
It gets used for everything. It's the main feed for cattle and pigs in those big factory farms, which helps make meat cheap. But way beyond that, it's processed into literally thousands of different food ingredients.
Like high fructose corn syrup.
That's the big one. But also maltodextrin, modified food starch, corn oil, corn syrup solids. It's hidden in so many processed foods. Even vitamin C supplements most of the world's supply starts as a corn byproduct.
So the whole food system is basically built on this super cheap, subsidized corn.
Pretty much. It's the cheapest calorie available thanks to those subsidies. So industry finds ways to put it in everything.
And speaking of cheap calories pushed as healthy, seed oils. You mentioned Crisco. But what about the liquid ones? Corn oil, soybean oil, canola.
Right. The shift away from traditional fats like butter and lard towards these liquid vegetable and seed oils, that was a massive PR campaign over decades.
Billing them as heart healthy.
Exactly. Perfectly healthy, cholesterol-free, better for your heart. It worked brilliantly. People felt good about choosing these cheap industrial oils over grandma's butter.
But now the science is saying, maybe not so healthy. Something about inflammation.
Definitely. The big issue is the type of fat. These seed oils are incredibly high in omega-6 fatty acids. Our bodies need some omega-6, but we also need omega-3 in a certain balance.
And these oils throw off the balance.
Massively. We're consuming way too much omega-6 compared to omega-3, largely because these oils are in everything processed, and that huge imbalance drives chronic inflammation throughout the body.
And chronic inflammation is linked to pretty much everything bad.
Yeah, it's a key driver for almost all modern chronic diseases. Heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, even some neurological issues. So not exactly heart healthy when you look at the whole picture.
Okay, we've covered lamp oil, explosives, sewage sludge, cheap corn dominating everything. It feels like we're building up to something. You said there's like a number one biggest lie, the main thing driving chronic disease.
I think we can argue that, yeah. But first, let's quickly clear away some smaller related myths that often distract from the main issue.
Okay, like what?
Like the old idea that butter and eggs are just packed with cholesterol and are guaranteed to clog your arteries. That's been largely debunked for most people.
Right. And what about red meat causing cancer?
That one's tricky. Often, studies making that claim lump together high-quality grass-fed meat with processed meats like hot dogs and salami. The evidence against quality red meat, in moderation, is much weaker and highly contested. It's a crucial distinction that gets lost.
Okay, so if those are the side issues,
Yeah.
what's the big one? The core belief that's making so many people sick.
The core lie, the dogma baked into our entire food system and dietary guidelines for decades, is this. Carbohydrates are essential for health, and specifically that your brain needs glucose from carbs as its primary fuel, period.
Isn't that true? I mean, that's what we're taught, right? Carbs for energy, brain runs on glucose.
Yeah.
Going low carb sounds kind of dangerous based on that.
And that's the power of the dogma. It's challenging decades of nutritional advice. But the key distinction is the type and quantity of carbs. We're not talking about the carbs in broccoli or spinach.
You mean the refined stuff, sugar, flour, all that corn syrup.
Exactly. Those highly processed, rapidly digested carbs, they hit your system like a sugar bomb, delivering a massive glucose load, way more than we ever encountered historically.
And what does that flood of glucose do to us long term?
It triggers a flood of insulin from your pancreas to manage the sugar. Do that constantly, day after day, year after year, with high-carb meals and snacks. And your cells start to ignore the insulin signal. They become resistant.
Insulin resistance, I've heard that term. That's bad, right?
It's the foundation. It's the starting point for metabolic syndrome, that cluster of conditions. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, unhealthy cholesterol levels. Even links to mood disorders and cognitive decline like Alzheimer's, which some researchers are now calling type 3 diabetes.
Wow. So you're saying most chronic disease in the U.S. traces back to eating too many of these refined carbs?
The evidence strongly suggests that metabolic dysfunction, driven by carbohydrate overconsumption and resulting insulin resistance, is the root cause for a huge majority of our chronic health crisis. The biggest health improvements often come from significantly lowering intake of those specific carbs.
Okay, if the science points that way, why are low-carb diets, like keto, so controversial? Why do they get attacked so much by mainstream health groups?
Honestly, I think it's attacked precisely because it works so effectively for so many people with these conditions.
What do you mean?
Think about it. When a dietary change can actually reverse type 2 diabetes, lead to significant weight loss without hunger, normalize blood pressure, improve mood, sharpen cognition, it fundamentally challenges the current model.
Which is mostly about managing symptoms with medication.
Exactly. A dietary approach that can potentially eliminate the need for lifelong medication and management for these huge, profitable disease categories, that's disruptive. It threatens the status quo built around treating, not curing, chronic illness.
That brings us back to the system itself. You mentioned the dietary guidelines. They aren't just suggestions on a pamphlet, are they?
Oh, definitely not. They are institutional mandates. The official dietary guidelines dictate the food served in schools, hospitals, nursing homes, the military, prisons. They determine what registered dietitians are taught and allowed to recommend.
And who influences those guidelines?
Well, there's significant influence from agricultural commodity groups, the industries that benefit from us eating lots of corn, wheat, soy, the very basis of those cheap, refined carbs.
So it's a closed loop. The guidelines promote cheat carbs, which makes people sick, and the system then manages the sickness, often using guidelines that don't fix the root cause.
It certainly looks that way. And it creates a terrible situation for doctors and dietitians who see the benefits of low-carb approaches for their patients with metabolic diseases. If they officially recommend something that goes against the guidelines, they risk professional sanctions.
Even if the science supports it.
Even then, the system protects the guidelines. It makes it incredibly difficult to introduce alternatives, even strongly evidence-based ones.
So the current guidelines might actually be creating more disease than they prevent.
Given the epidemic of metabolic disease and the overwhelming research showing the power of carbohydrate reduction to reverse it, you have to conclude that yes, the current carb-heavy guidelines are failing millions. It's absolutely essential that a well-formulated low-carb option becomes part of the official recommendations. Not necessarily for everyone, but as a valid, powerful tool.
Wow. Okay, so we've journeyed from candle-making leftovers becoming a cooking staple to explosives, preservatives, and sausage, to realizing that maybe the very foundation of our official diet, the emphasis on refined carbs, could be the biggest driver of why so many of us are sick and takes so long to fix these mistakes.
Decades, sometimes a century. The pattern is clear. Industry moves fast, regulation and public health understanding lag way, way behind.
It really makes you think.
It does. And maybe it leaves you with a final thought to chew on. Considering how long it took to deal with things like asbestos or trans fats, and seeing the scale of chronic disease linked to our current way of eating, what widely accepted nutritional truth are we all following right now that maybe 50 years down the road, our kids or grandkids will look back at and just shake their heads? Or maybe worse, what obvious mistake are we making today?